Tonight, we debate a defining question of the AI age. As artificial intelligence develops at warp speed, will it unlock a new era of opportunity or drive humans from the workforce? Some warn that as AI enters hospitals, factories, academia, and other professions, what we will see is not merely disruption, but displacement. Entire roles shrinking faster than workers can adapt, with wealth and control concentrating around those who own the systems. Others argue we've heard this all before, and in fact, technology has always transformed work, not erased it. AI will amplify human potential, create new industries, and push us toward more creative, strategic, and human-centered roles. So now, open to debate in partnership with the SNF Agora Institute of Johns Hopkins University as part of the Hopkins Forum series and the stellar roster of thought leaders brings you the question, will AI make work obsolete? Before we launch, one more thing I'd like to do. I want to bring to the stage our CEO from Open Debate, Leah Matthau, and Harry Farrell, the SNF Agora Institute Professor of International Affairs at SAIS. And there you are. We just want to chat very, very briefly about the debate, why we're doing it, the timing of it, and the purpose of this relationship. And Leah, as you know, I was a journalist at ABC for many, many years. And there were times when we would work on a project for months and months and months. And then the week that it was ready to go, something huge would happen in the news that would make it incredibly relevant, the thing that we've been working on for months. And we would say that the news gods have smiled upon us. I feel like this week, the debate gods have smiled upon us.
Well, we're very fortunate, and we're so thrilled to be back here for the 5th installment of the Hopkins Forum. And as John said, you can't turn on the news without hearing about this topic. And there's some recent polling, I think 1/3 of US workers are concerned about the impact of AI on their jobs. And there is another survey from a highly reputable organization that says 59% of young people fear the impact of AI on their jobs. So highly relevant to students assembled here this evening.
The timing could not be better.
Timing could not be better.
And Henry, tell us about the partnership between Open to Debate and the SNF Agora Institute.
So the SNF Agora Institute it's devoted to these three principles of discovery, design, and dialogue. And discovery is what professors like me do. We try to figure out things about the world. Design is all about trying to figure out how to take this knowledge and make it useful. And dialogue, well, dialogue is all this. Dialogue is speaking to the public, figuring out how to communicate the things we have discovered, figuring out how to discover the uses we have made or figured out how to make of that to the public, and then bringing the public's knowledge, the public's understanding back into this process of discovery and design.
And tell us a little bit about your work in AI and how it relates to what we're doing here.
Okay, so I do work together with my colleagues thinking about the ways in which AI might affect how we think about democracy. But I really think that today what we're going to try and figure out, and this is good, this is important. This also is not actually what we're going to be debating this evening. What we're going to be debating this evening, I think, is we're going to be figuring out what it is that democracy can do for AI. So I'm just back from Silicon Valley. I spent 3 days in Mountain View and in Palo Alto talking to a lot of people in the tech industry and associated with the tech industry. Everybody who I talked to is concerned with this question of how AI is going to affect labor, how it is going to affect the world of work. And this is actually where democracy comes in, because we don't know what is going to happen. And we do know from social science that the way to try and figure out how to deal with complex problems is to bring together people who have very different perspectives, very different understandings, very different forms of knowledge, and get them to talk to each other. Get them to figure out what it is that they agree on, what it is that they disagree on, and then from that shared knowledge that is built, you can begin to map the problem better, and you can perhaps begin to figure out what solutions might look like. So I'm really looking forward to hearing this evening.
This will be a fierce competition of ideas with extraordinary experts joining us tonight.
Just watch us do what you just talked about. Thank you very, very much. Let's get to it in front of this sold-out house in Washington, D.C. with the question we're debating, will AI make work obsolete? Let's welcome our debaters to the stage in order. Simon Johnson. Andrew Yang. Rumman Chowdhury. Chris Hughes. All right, I said let's welcome our debaters. Now let's meet our debaters. First, I want to welcome to the stage, and arguing that the answer to the question, will AI make work obsolete, is yes. I want to welcome economist Simon Johnson. Simon, welcome to the program. In 2024, you and two others won the Nobel Prize for your work studying how institutions are formed and affect prosperity. You're currently teaching entrepreneurship at the MIT Sloan School of Management, where you head up Global Economics and Management Group. You were also named an AI ambassador last year by the British government. Welcome to the program, Simon.
Thank you very much.
We hear that you actually have produced a kind of graphic book, comic book style book on this very topic. Why did this complex topic seem right for a comic book approach?
Well, we wrote a book, Jorna Samoglu and I, called Power and Progress. It's 500 pages long. And in case it's too long for you, here's the graphic novel version for a wider audience. And this version actually found its way into the hands of a 13-year-old daughter of one of my colleagues. She sent me some sticky notes to do better next time. So I'm working on that now, John.
Thank you, Simon. And Simon, your partner is Andrew Yang, whom you might know as the former presidential candidate. He who popularized the concept of the universal basic income, also known as UBI. Andrew, you went on to found the Foreword party to challenge the two-party political system in the U.S. In fact, you joined us for a debate about that topic. You've done a lot of work in tech and the education sectors, and now you're the CEO of Noble Mobile. You also have a new book titled, Hey Yang, Where's My $1,000? Glad you're here, Andrew. Andrew, where's our money?
Well, thank you for having me. The alternate title was, Hey, Am I Racist, or Are You Andrew Yang? And the answer to the question is, I am working on it.
Thank you, Andrew. Now you have two opponents who will be arguing from the opposite side, saying no, AI will not make work obsolete. And first I want to welcome Rumman Chowdhury. Rumman, welcome to the program. You're a data scientist. You're also a social scientist. You're the founder of the Humane Intelligence Public Benefit Corporation, which works to make AI more responsible. You have lent your expertise over the years to Accenture and Twitter. You were named one of Time's 100 most influential people in AI and one of Forbes' 5 who are shaping AI. You were also appointed by the Biden administration as the first science envoy for the artificial intelligence with the State Department. Welcome, Rumman, to the program. You were just in India last week at the AI Impact Summit. What was the most surprising thing you heard there?
Oh, definitely Sam Altman being critiqued about how much energy AI models take and saying that in comparison, humans take about 20 years of food to be trained.
Why did that surprise you?
Well, I don't know if it surprises me, but I suppose nothing coming out of Silicon Valley surprises me anymore. But I suppose that the sum of a human's worth is more than the food they eat.
Understood. Thank you, Rumman. And Rumman's partner is the economist, the writer, Chris Hughes. Chris, you are also well known as the co-founder of Facebook. You made headlines in 2019 with the New York Times op-ed advocating for the breakup of Facebook. You also worked for President Obama's 2008 campaign. You later founded the Economic Security Project. You have a new book called Market Crafters, The 100-Year Struggle to Shape the American Economy. Welcome, Chris, to the program.
Thanks for having me.
I want to point out, you also run the Finance Committee at the New York Public Library. Are all those meetings held in kind of hushed tones? Does everybody have to?
No, John, we speak in volumes.
Do we declare a winner of this debate now?
Definitely yes.
Okay, as we get the debate started, a note that our live audience here at Johns Hopkins is playing a critical role also. They have been asked to vote and will be asked to vote on the question, will AI make work obsolete? To tell us at the end which side they found most persuasive, at least in this room. So that does make this a contest. It's a contest of ideas. And for us, we require for that contest something, let's call it sportsmanship, where the debaters are here to show that we can disagree with each other in good faith and not in a way that makes us into enemies. So we have rules, which I will enforce, no personal attacks, keep on topic. listen to what the other side is actually saying. We do that, I think we prove our case about true debate, good debate. So let's get to it. Let's get to our first round. Our first round is comprised of opening statements by each debater in turn. They will take this space in front of their desks. First up is Andrew Yang. Andrew, you are arguing that AI will make work obsolete. You have 4 minutes. The floor is yours.
I'm thrilled to be here at Johns Hopkins in Washington, D.C., talking about the most pressing issue of our time. It's so pressing that I spent several years running for president on it in 2018, 2019, 2020 as the magical Asian man from the future who wanted to give everyone money. Imagine making that case at an Iowa truck stop circa 2019. Unfortunately, everything I argued for at that point is now coming to pass. I recently sat with the CEO of a publicly traded tech company who told me this: we are going to fire 15% of our workers. 2 years from now, we're going to fire another 20% of workers. 2 years after that, we're going to fire another 20% of workers. His last statement was, I have no idea what college students are going to do in 5 years. I now run a company, Noble Mobile, that until recently had job postings up for junior engineers. Noble Mobile's mission is to lower your wireless bill and reduce your screen time. My CTO came to me and said, hey, the AI tools are now so good that I think we can take that posting down. I want you, because we can use the AI tools in conjunction with our senior techies to roll out new features. I want you to think about what that means at our little company times the thousands of other companies that are making the same decision. This is not speculative. This is showing up in the data. Of the 1 million or so jobs that were lost in the United States last year, you now have record low white-collar job openings. And for the first time in American history, there is no educational premium in the labor market, as the unemployment rate for recent college graduates for the first time is now the same or higher as for non-college graduates. I know that's terrible news for those of you who are in college today. But this is playing out before our eyes. And if you look at the job functions, I have talked directly to computer science majors from Stanford, UCLA, other national schools that cannot find jobs, and they're driving Ubers to make ends meet. It is not just coders or designers or the millions of customer service personnel. It's anything with the words research or analyst in it. Finance, law, consulting. I was a miserable corporate attorney for 5 whole months, and I guarantee you that AI can do that job much, much better than I ever could. But at that point, I had 7 years of education and 6 figures of school loans to my credit. I used to call my school loans Sally Mae. Said, hey, I hope you're having a great time in this other town. I'm sending you a check every month. For young people today, the opportunities might not be there, but the debt will be all too real. What's happening right now, America, is the equivalent of when factories and robots started showing up at manufacturing facilities around the country in the 80s or 90s. And I'm sure at that point, what do the workers think? It's not going to affect me. I'm too special, too important for them to replace me. And what happened to those workers? They got replaced. Millions of manufacturing jobs were decimated over that period, and those communities never recovered. The exact same thing is happening right now to the 70 million white-collar workers around the country, and it is going to blast the American dream to smithereens for many of them that did what many of you are doing, which is study hard, try and get a good job, only to find that that job will not be there. This is all too real. I have started to call this process the I have bad news, America. The thing is here. It's leaving the lab. It is in the cubicles next to you. Unfortunately, it does not need a cubicle because that would be too expensive. It can be done in the cloud in a way that we cannot compete against. I wish I had better news. In my mind, instead of trying to debate whether this is happening, it's to accept that this is real and then move forward to solutions. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Andrew. So, Andrew, we go out on public radio.
I trust your editors.
We've I think we've earned a bleep moment. But thank you for your opening. Now we're going to hear from the other side, taking the position that AI will not make work obsolete. I want to give the floor to Chris Hughes. Chris, your chance to make your statement, please.
Thanks, John. In the summer of 1967, Barclays Bank installed the world's first automated teller machine. The press called it a robot cashier. But within days, something funny started to happen. The machine's keypad got bizarrely sticky. The bank tellers were sneaking out on their break and smothering it with honey. They were terrified. The machine could do in seconds what took them minutes, and their jobs were surely toast. But here's the thing. In the United States in 1970, there were 300,000 bank tellers. 40 years later, after the installation of countless ATMs, there were 600,000 bank tellers in the United States. ATMs made branches cheaper to operate, so banks opened more of them. There were fewer tellers per branch, but more overall. Today, we're here to debate whether AI will make work obsolete. And a lot of tech optimists, including our opponents, are going to argue that it will. And they come in a tradition that goes back to Aristotle, through Oscar Wilde, John Maynard Keynes, Nikola Tesla. These are brilliant men who all got one thing wrong. Technology did not herald the end of work. Work will endure because human desires, in fact, they're infinite. Every time we develop a new technology, which makes it more efficient for us to satisfy some desire, it opens up space for time, money, labor, and attention to shift toward the satisfaction of other desires. That creates new jobs. So let me explain how. When the cost of creating something falls, people often don't want less of it. They want more of it. Excel automated the spreadsheet, and the number of accountants went up because businesses wanted more financial analysis. Photoshop revolutionized graphic design, but all of a sudden people wanted more beautiful things. There were more graphic designers. AI is a transformative technology that I personally love. It will make work more efficient, but that will increase demand for many services. Anthropic claims that 90% of its code this year will be written by AI, and guess what? They're hiring more software developers to build more products and more features. Now, in other cases, some jobs will disappear. Customer service agents and paralegals will likely go the way of the elevator operator of a long time ago. But the money used to pay for those jobs, it doesn't vanish. Those funds will flow towards things that people didn't have money for or couldn't find before. Massage therapists, bespoke tailors, end-of-life care, psychedelic-assisted therapy. Listen, it sounds far-fetched, but just look at every other period of technological innovation over the course of history. Today, 60% of the people employed in the United States work in jobs that didn't exist in 1940. Think about if you told someone in 1940 how many Americans would be employed as physical therapists, drone operators, or podcasters. They would think that you were crazy. Let's be clear-eyed. This transition will be brutal for many. It will destroy some jobs, particularly white-collar ones, and we have to be ready for it, with public policy to address that. But if you take away one idea from this debate tonight, let it be this. The more time that we spend focused on the siren song of a jobless, workless future is less time that we focus on the practical project of figuring out how to smooth the transition for the workers who will need our help the most. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. Now let's hear from Simon Johnson, who will be arguing that AI will make work obsolete. Simon, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It's truly a great honor and privilege to be with you this evening, both to be alongside Andrew Yang, who was far ahead of his time in terms of warning about these issues, but also with my opponents tonight, Chris Hughes, who has spoken eloquently about the problems that AI is creating, and Rumman Chowdhury, who is one of the country's leading thinkers about how we should do better and why we're not doing better. there is a dangerous obsession sweeping America and sweeping American corporate life, and it's actually outside of the United States as well, and that is the obsession of chief executive officers with automation. Automation meaning replacing people with machines, with algorithms, with artificial intelligence. Now, Chris mentioned 1967. That was a long time ago, Chris, half a century. And yes, certainly in the past, there have been some episodes in which technology has been complementary to people and it's helped expand the demand for labor and human expertise. That's what you want to be looking for. But that's not the situation today. I ran a class at MIT yesterday with a good friend of mine, Piero Novelli, who is the chair of the supervisory board of Euronext, runs some of the largest stock markets in Europe. And his conversations with CEOs are exactly the same lines, along the same lines as Andrew's, as he described to you a moment ago, which is the CEOs are thinking primarily about how not to hire. That's the situation we face today. This is not the age of the textile machine or the automobile or the bank teller machine. This is the age of artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence is designed deliberately to replicate and replace human intelligence. Why do you get value? Why do any of us get paid a premium wage? It's because we have some intelligence that we bring to our job and to our task. And the people running those companies, that sector, that industry, the tech industry, and the people adopting. And if you don't believe me, listen to Chris Hughes when he speaks to Ganesh Sitaraman, the brilliant interview that you did for the Vanderbilt Policy Accelerator about how corporate power, Chris, is destroying the economy and the jobs and our opportunities. And you're absolutely right when you said that. Now, can we do better? Can we build some with AI? Is there a potential future that could be better? Yes, there is. And for that, you should turn to Rumman Chowdhury's brilliant TED Talk, The Right to Repair, in which she explains exactly what is wrong with AI as it's currently manifest. And you should listen to Rumman, not tonight, but in the future, you should listen to her, and you should take her seriously, and we should all follow her advice, and we should demand that AI be run in a different way, in a better way, in a way that Andrew Yang has talked about. That is what we need. We need to redirect the direction of artificial intelligence, but it's not what's happening. It's not what we're facing today. And are there going to be some jobs left? Of course there'll be some jobs. Think about Waymo, self-driving taxis, 20% market share in San Francisco, sweeping the country. You've seen them, you've ridden in them, you've probably enjoyed riding in them, okay? Two kinds of jobs there. There's some tech support for when the taxi doesn't work. The people doing that tech support, I'm pretty sure, are not in the United States, and they're not being paid a wage that you would like to be paid. And then there are people who close the doors. When the passengers forget to close the doors, somebody gets the task, oh, I'll go close the door of that Waymo. You're not going to get a 401k or good benefits or a health insurance closing the doors on Waymo taxis, I promise you. The jobs of the future, given the version of AI that's being deployed, are sitting in warehouses under surveillance, being driven by a human or a robot supervisor to look at unappealing images and decide whether or not to suppress them, or maybe it's to promote them more broadly, because the unethical conduct of this industry is without bounds. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon. Next up is Rumman Chowdhury, who is arguing that AI will not make work obsolete. Your turn.
Thank you. Well, according to the same CEOs that want to fire 10, 20, 50% of their employees, AGI has been 1 year away for 3 years now. So I won't hold my breath on anything they say. But will AI make work obsolete? No, simply because the tech we are building and the world we live in does not support that claim. In addition, this claim is not only distracting, it is harmful from the harms that actually have been articulated quite well today. It's as if we're waiting for a volcano to explode and we're ignoring the house that's on fire right now. So first, the technology. Well, it is actually a common public misconception that AI models linearly improve from iteration to iteration, when actually the dirty secret of Silicon Valley is that the opposite is true. Every new model has had diminishing marginal returns, and it becomes more and more expensive and more difficult to find good data to train them on. And what's happening today is CEOs of these companies are specifically targeting where they want models to improve, and therefore sacrificing some of the quality of the other things the models can do that maybe previous versions did better. In fact, this is so well known in Silicon Valley. Two of the modern creators of the AI age, Drs. Fei-Fei Li and Dr. Yann LeCun, are separately making new startups, putting their reputation and their work on the line today to make new startups on this concept of what's known as world models, which is a drastically different change from how LLMs are created today in generative AI models. And according to Yann himself, we are now today we're building two-dimensional technology for a three-dimensional world. In other words, there's no way in which we can automate using today's technology the kind of technology that we need for these jobs to go away. And the second is that this technology is just hard to integrate. You know, Andrew was talking about being a consultant. I used to be at Accenture. Accenture makes a lot of money doing this awful thing known as technology integration. In other words, when a new kind of technology comes around, people are paid a lot of money to build it into old systems. So when AI makes work, quote unquote, obsolete, what that does not look like is a robot at your desk drinking your coffee. What that looks like is mismatched databases, passwords you can't find, engineers who don't remember who owns a model. If any of you have done this before, you know how hard it is. In fact, if you've ever tried to share a SharePoint file to somebody outside your organization, you get it. It's not easy. But where will we see this impact? Well, I like to call AI an enthusiastic intern. And that's exactly who's getting automated away. It's the enthusiastic interns. And actually, the people who are the most worried about it are in the sectors where this automation is happening. Talk to any senior developer, and they will say it is a problem that we're not doing something for junior developers. Unemployment for the 16 to 24 age group is at 9%. And in fact, there was this great op-ed in the Wall Street Journal by a Tufts dentistry student who said that her colleagues are thinking of putting down their pencils and picking up pipe wrenches because there is much more promise and less debt in doing trade work than there might be in getting an advanced college degree. And recently, an NBER paper published by Brookings digs more into where this impact lies, and it doesn't look great. You don't have to cry for the lawyers and programmers. They will be fine because they have a lot more money, they have better mobility, and they have better networks, and they're in the cities where you can get new jobs. And this paper takes a more nuanced view. Do you know where we will see this impact? We will see it in 16% of the labor force. That is 88% women. These are clerical jobs. These are administrative jobs. These are also jobs that tend to have a larger elderly clientele and also tend to be in the Midwest. So it looks like the labor changes of today look a lot like the labor changes of yesterday. And as my partner and colleague here, Chris, has said, we need good, sensible regulation, and we need good, sensible economic policy. So instead of focusing on this boogeyman of AI, what we need to think about is what is at risk, which is whether work in the future will be dignified, secure, and accessible to all. Thank you.
Thank you, Rumman. And that concludes the first round of this Open to Debate program. Now we move on to our second round, and in the second round, the debaters will take questions from me and will address one another directly. They can also put questions to one another. But I just want to summarize what I think I heard in the first round from this side, arguing that AI will make work obsolete, a very dire, really sounding a very, very loud alarm about not just the future, but actually the moment that we're already in. We heard it said that our dreams are being blown to smithereens. Particularly threatened are the 70 million white-collar workers in the United States that already they're seeing a pattern of companies trying to hire to replace workers. They want to have them replaced for financial reasons. And they say that there's an obsession with automation, and that the numbers are already indicate that there's record low job numbers occurring, that there's no longer an educational premium, and many, many other aspects that they talk about in painting a very dire picture. The opposing side is arguing, first of all, yes, some jobs will disappear. It's going to be brutal for many. But they're, in a sense, they're talking about, as one side is arguing that we're heading towards an abyss, they can see the abyss, but they also say there's a way to build a bridge across it. And they have some confidence that AI itself will be able to contribute to that building of a bridge, that there will be the creation of new jobs that kind of cannot even be imagined yet. They point out that this has happened repeatedly in history, and they seem confident that it will happen again. And interesting, particularly from Rumman, an argument that the threat of AI is somewhat exaggerated, that it already the technology is encountering diminishing returns, getting more expensive. with less data to work on, and the threatened sort of monster AI capacity is farther out of reach than people might expect. And I want to take that point to the opposing side, because it's not an argument that has been part of this conversation for the most part. Andrew, Rumman arguing that the technology is going to reach a limit, and it might actually be moving in on that limit, at least in the short to medium term, and therefore less need to worry.
Yeah, I would love to address this. Thank you. So what percentage of Americans graduate from college? Just go ahead, shout it out. 40. It's about 35%. And I've been focusing a bit on college graduates in part because of the context and the newness. But you're looking at an economy that's comprised of 2/3 essentially high school graduates. About 2.5 million do something called customer service for a living. Now, you can say, hey, AI is flawed and not that smart. But AI is 100% going to be able to do that job. And I want you to imagine that call center being replaced by AI, those thousands of workers being sent home. And then what is their next move? Apparently, they're all going to become massage therapists or yoga instructors. Now, I happen to think that's fanciful. I know that those Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and they're probably going to have a similar experience to the manufacturing workers of the Midwest in the 1990s. Another extraordinarily common job in our country.
Andrew, let me
driving a car or a truck.
Andrew, let me jump.
Job in 29 states.
Andrew, I'm jumping
Waymo
in.
is going to decimate those jobs, and I want you to again to visualize those hundreds of thousands of former Uber drivers and truckers. What are they going to do? Apparently, we're going to have a whole lot of massage therapists.
All right, that was a bit of a filibuster in light of what the question was. And the question was this point that your opponent is making, and I'll take it to Simon with maybe less of a filibuster. Or who knows, that the AI is not, the extent of what the AI is going to be able to do in the medium to short to medium term has been exaggerated, that it's a little bit running out of its acceleration juice. That's essentially your point, Rumman, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think Rumman's correct that many people who talk to the press and who raise capital are exaggerating what AI can do at this moment, John. But the key point is that they're still, despite this element of exaggeration, raising massive amounts of capital, deploying this AI that's actually not that much better than people, really obsessed with automation. So the exaggeration is there, the AI is getting better, there's a lot of smart people working hard to improve it, huge capital going in, and they're still pushing hard today, John, on automation. So imagine what happens as the world models work or whatever the next phase is. You're going to see even more automation as that technology bites.
Response?
I have to call Professor Johnson because he was my professor at MIT, and I'm a good Asian kid who has to call their teachers by their names. Can't call a teacher by their first name.
You want to invite her to call you Simon?
Anything polite would be fine.
Okay.
No, I think we are in agreement in that case. I think the claims that were made by CEOs like Klarna, Salesforce, have been overblown. They were, with their whole chest, speaking about 20-30% automation, quietly rolled it all back. But you are right, there are labor market impacts. I think tech goes through these ebbs and flows that are quite harmful to the market. And this is where I think we all align the fact that we need better, sensible policies. We need some worker protections. We need to actually focus on who is being fired. And the thing about entry-level, work being unavailable, the concern is more that, we will not have the senior developers or programmers or CGI, designers of tomorrow if we do not hire young people today. And there's this big, gap in wages and unemployment that, as a millennial, I experienced, right, in 2008. We all know how it feels to graduate college, having done all the right things, just as Andrew said, and not getting the job that you thought you were promised.
But are you arguing their side at this point?
I'm arguing my side. They seem to be arguing mine.
John, if I could just jump in
Chris.
here to pick up this line of debate on the Waymos and the massage therapists. Nobody's saying that a customer service agent's they're all going to become massage therapists. That's a mischaracterization of our argument. There are so many jobs that will emerge: trust and safety moderators, patient navigators, benefit counselors, all of which require some mix of clerical skills and human skills, which will become more and more in demand. I think the Waymo example is maybe the crispest one. The average American household spends $12,000 on transportation every year. If that cost approaches zero, what happens to that $12,000? You just put it in the bank and hang out? No,
it goes to Waymo. It goes to Waymo.
They spend that money on other things, on other services and other goods that they want. And where do those services and goods come from? jobs are required to produce those. This is basic economics 101 with
Chris,
a consumer surplus fueling
Chris,
demand.
Waymo is not free.
Waymo is probably cheaper than buying a new car, especially in this economy.
The idea is that as you back out the labor costs, that automation brings down the cost. Is that not the way you see
let's drill into this. Let's really drill into this. All right, check it out. So we all now are riding Waymos because it's cheaper than owning a car. All of the people that currently drive cars for a living no longer have jobs. All of the people that used to sell cars no longer have jobs. Different car manufacturers, like probably there's a reduction in demand because apparently I don't need to own a car. And I'll be giving, let's call it 50% of this $12,000 a year I'm spending right now to Waymo, which last I checked is a giant tech company. And this is a perfect illustration because that money, $6,000 times all of us, is going to get sucked up into the cloud out of our community.
Let's say that's
great
true. Where
for
does the
Waymo
other
shareholders.
$6,000 go?
Maybe the $6,000 I have, I use on other things, Chris, but it's going to be cold
Created
comfort.
by whom?
It's going to be cold comfort to the millions of people that currently are driving a car and will not be getting probably
People
a
have
lot
other
of that
skills
money.
than just this is what we're arguing for
One
on
would
our
hope.
side is upskilling and reskilling.
Please, Simon. That's very, very polite of you, so you get in.
I do think this example is very important, and it speaks to both the economics, and I think it's something a lot of people can relate to. So when GPS came along, and it became much easier for people to find their way around cities, and also matching software was developed, we have the arrival of ride-sharing, so-called apps, including Uber and Lyft. So this was actually bad news for taxi drivers and people who own taxi medallions, but it's actually good news for people who wanted to enter into urban chauffeuring and didn't know their way around the city. So there was an expansion in the number of people providing urban chauffeuring services, and the relative wage of people providing that job did not change much between the taxi era and the Uber era. And there are currently between 1 and 1.5 million people, for example, estimated who drive for Uber. But Waymo is different. It's fundamentally different, Chris, and you know this, which is we're not replacing one type of labor with another type of labor. We're replacing a machine owned by capital. That's what's taking over the job of all these people. Now, the key question is, as you say, what will those other people go to do? Absolutely. And with what money will they retrain themselves? And who is going to have money to buy their services in the community? If this comes I'm just quoting you back to yourself from the Vanderbilt interview, Chris. If this comes very fast, and if it comes in what you've called an unethical way, so a way that doesn't respect the need for workers to be able to adapt and retrain, and for the economy to adapt. So if it comes at us in a flood, which it's coming at us right now, Rumman, unfortunately, and despite your best efforts, then it's going to overwhelm people's ability.
As I hear a lot of overlap actually between what the two sides are saying, nevertheless, we're at a juncture where you are more optimistic, you are more pessimistic. Where's your optimism coming from? And I'm going to ask you the reverse question. Where's your optimism coming from?
I can even just draw from the Waymo example. We act as if Waymo showed up yesterday. It took over 20 years of investment in self-driving car technology before we got a car that could reasonably maybe navigate a handful of cities.
Your point being things are not going to move so fast
Correct.
that we can't adapt. We would not have time to adapt.
If we have sensible policy, if we scare ourselves paralyzed by saying it's going to come and everyone's going to be out of a job, then we're not going to focus on where we should have.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. Your opponents are not saying everyone's going to be out of a job.
No, but every cab driver, every person who drives is not going to be out of a job.
To answer your question from before, John, I think there's one word. It's history. Every single time this happens, whether it's with electricity or steam engines or air travel or data science, people always trot out this argument again and again because it is a real concern. We all share it, and yet the data is very clear. You look from industry to industry. I mean, there are more people creating movie special effects now than there were before CGI. I had several others with spreadsheet. I mean, radiologists. Everybody 10 years ago said radiology was over. There's a shortage of radiologists in the United States now. So it's like a siren song that has this attraction because it is so frightening, but history shows that labor markets actually do adapt. And those jobs are destroyed, but the consumer surplus doesn't go anywhere. The money goes to fuel new demand.
Andrew.
I'm going to ask a history question. Why do we have Labor Day today? We have Labor Day because of a series of violent strikes called the Pullman strikes that killed dozens of Americans, and then the government said, oh my gosh, let's give you all a holiday. This is in the beginning of the 20th century during the throes of the Industrial Revolution. So imagining that this is going to go well when that went poorly with unrest and violence, and this is faster among a much, much broader number of industries and a larger population, a more complex economy. I mean, I agree to look at the history. In terms of why I'm pessimistic, here are 100 data points for you. I want you all to visualize the last 100 Uber drivers you've had. That's it.
I don't understand the Labor Day point, though, is the idea that there will be massive disruption. There's no doubt about that. And it could fuel huge problems, as we've seen with deindustrialization. I think all four of us might agree with all of that. But that's not an argument that AI will make work obsolete.
So I wrote a 500-page book on exactly this history. I'm sorry I only brought the comic, that was my mistake. But you see, the point is that Chris is right sometimes, but not every time. If you look at what happened to textiles in the north of England, the mechanization of spinning began, as you know, in the 1770s. That actually creates more opportunity for people in the weaving part of the value chain. But when mechanization reaches weaving short afterwards, there's a problem for everyone. And real wages, Chris, did not rise in textiles
Absolutely.
Or in Manchester or in Lancashire or anywhere in the north of England between the 1780s and the 1830s when railways arrived. Now, that's a long time for these people. Were they working, John? Yes. They were, trying to find scrap bits of coal. They were trying to, dig up somebody else's turnips. They were surviving, but it wasn't a job that any of us would recognize as a job. That's when it goes badly. And what happened with digital transformation after the 1980s, Chris? So what we've seen there, as you know very well, is the wiping out of the middle education, middle skilled, middle America jobs. We've lost the middle. We've lost the middle of America, and we're dealing with this social and political consequence there because people who had those jobs got driven down to the bottom of the American labor market where it's very hard to survive. Sometimes Chris Hughes is right. You are right. Detroit 1900, Henry Ford shows up. He introduces automation. He creates a lot of jobs that require human expertise in the value chain, and the unions come along. That delivers prosperity, shared prosperity. But that's not what happened in the 1780s. That's not what happened after the 1980s. That's not modern America. And AI is built on those same digital rails, and that's why it's deploying so quickly. And AI threatens to not just repeat, but actually intensify the polarization of the job market and the destruction and undermining of democracy that we've experienced since the 1980s.
So at a certain point where we're debating visions of a future that haven't happened yet. So that sets a little bit of a limit to how far we can go with it. But I just want to ask, if we're going to debate things that could happen in the future, is there any reason that AI can't someday replace the CEOs who are replacing all of their workers and save a lot of money and compensation?
Probably the first job that can be automated away.
So when the Hollywood writers went on strike a couple of years ago, there was a lot of discussion about this with very smart people from the entertainment industry. And the best articulation of exactly this view, John, was that all you need right now in the entertainment industry is one senior person at the top who might be the owner of capital, might be the CEO, to have the idea for the movie or the TV or a series or whatever, and then you hire one person, could be a relatively young person actually, to make it seem like a human wrote the script. That's where we are already. That's what the screenwriters were fighting against, and they got a contract, thank goodness, that will hold that back for a few years, but not forever.
I just want to expand very quickly. I rode in an Uber earlier today, and he was working a second job. He had 4 kids. We compared notes on our children. The point I was making is that for most Uber drivers, they're grinding and they're trying to make ends meet. And if you deprive them of that either first or secondary income, there's not much of a safety net. I mean, in case you hadn't noticed, this is United States circa 2026, where the motto might as well be, we're trying to extract as much profit from you as possible. And so that the transition for my Uber driver today and all of the other Uber drivers is going to be extraordinarily difficult. And I think that we may agree, as we're saying, that, look, I mean, Rumman and Chris, I mean, you're talking about, look, there's going to be a very, very tough transition. And certainly even when, you could argue, like, obsolete and labor, like, of course, I think everyone agrees that there are going to be jobs, in this new era. It's just that for millions of Americans, this transition is going to be beyond brutally difficult.
So
it's going to be existential.
To that end, and since we're delighted to be in partnership with Johns Hopkins for this debate, and right now, in fact, there are students at the home campus in Baltimore who are watching this debate, and on their behalf, since some scary things have already been said about if you're in college now, by this side, it's not a great time. I want to ask this side, if you're in college now, what should you be doing about this? What's the positioning?
There are a whole host of jobs that I think will demand the most human characteristics that I can imagine. Judgment, compassion, the ability to have empathy and anticipate what other humans will need. These kinds of things machines will not be able to do, and those are the kinds of things to cultivate. The thing that I don't quite get, Simon, I love your book. I think it is excellent. I'd recommend it for all of you to buy and read, but I think you might be sitting on the wrong side of the room tonight, because with your examples with the textile workers, are you claiming that 10 years later, the total number of jobs in the United Kingdom had decreased, that technology was actually destroying work? Or are you saying that technology can change the character of work, creating meaningful disruption? Because there, I would agree, and I'm sure Rumman would agree, but it doesn't make work as a thing obsolete.
If it drives you, Chris, so what happened to the textile work? I'm from the north of England, and my family lived through some version of this early industrial revolution. And if the transformation of the textile industries, for example, results in wiping out all productive opportunities, all the opportunities you have to make a decent living, you still live, you still try to find some food for your family, you still struggle on. But what happened to the weavers from the 1810s, Chris, was a complete and utter destruction of their income earning opportunities. Now, maybe there's a semantic point in here, John, to the question about what is work. I mean, if I'm, scrabbling to dig up somebody else's turnips and steal them in order to feed my families, am I working? Sure. Well, I'm certainly putting effort in. But do I have a job? Do I have a way of earning income?
Did the total number of jobs decrease in the United Kingdom?
In the textile industry?
No, the total number of jobs in the economy. I think that's what we're not saying that some industries don't suffer disproportionately. Of course they do. But demand shifts to other industries and work endures.
So the British economy at that time was comprised primarily of agriculture, a little bit of commerce, and this one modern sector, which was textiles. In that modern sector, textiles, jobs did disappear. Yes, absolutely. Now, did the agricultural sector completely disappear? No, it didn't. Did commerce completely disappear? No, it didn't. Was there a boom? Was there an expansion? Did those weavers get jobs either in Manchester or Lancashire or in Yorkshire or in the south of England to somehow make up for the lost opportunities? No, they didn't, Chris.
Right, that's the problem.
It was a very bad 50 years.
Yes.
Okay, we have to move on to audience questions now. And Chris, I really was interested in digging in on the question of what students should do, but I think I heard in your answer maybe that it's the comeback of the English major.
Well, John,
the liberal arts.
John, can I draw your attention to what was not said on the other side, which is coding? How many people in the room were told from age 4 on, you should do coding? Go to coding camp, learn to write a computer game.
Applaud for that response, please. Okay.
Right? So that used to be regarded as an essential part of the skills for any human. And now computer science majors, well, they have higher than the unemployment rates that even Rumman was quoting. So coding, you've been wiped out by, today it's something called Claude, next week it'll be something that rhymes with lobster. I don't know where this is going next. But coding is gone. That source of productive opportunity has been substantially wiped out at the level of the entire economy.
Hello. I think this mic was not designed for me. But anyway.
Could you really just tell us your first name?
Oh, yeah. My name is Natalie, and I'm a college student at Hopkins, majoring in psychology and political science. I'd be curious what the speakers think the solutions look like, especially for us young people who are going to be trying to get those increasingly disappearing, potentially entry-level jobs. Okay,
it's not strictly a debatable question. It's a what do they all think question, but I think we're all wondering answer that question, so I'm going to allow it. Who would like to go first with that?
I'd love to address. Yeah, so have talked to kids from community college to University of Michigan to Stanford, MIT, etc. And my main advice to offer is the purpose of education is not to teach you what to think, it's to teach you how to think. And that actually is what MIT taught me. And until then, I understood education as acquiring knowledge and spitting it back out to do well on tests. And there's actually a lot of really great research on how to incorporate AI into education. Specifically, I think of it as a tool of mastery, not a tool of production. And it's the same with education in general. It is not, the purpose of going to school is not to get a physical degree. It's to have amazing professors like Professor Johnson and to learn and to expand your mind. I was a political science, economics, and 14, 15, and 17 in MIT terms, I'm sorry. My PhD is in political science, and here I am on a stage talking about artificial intelligence, a field that I'm a global expert in. There was no linear path to my career, and the jobs that I could have had and left behind are all still viable career pathways to have. So, my advice is you have to remain flexible and just always keep an eye out for what's going on.
First, a lot of you are going to be tempted to hide out in graduate school and get an advanced degree. The proportion of, for example, law school applicants surged by 21% last year, but 3.5 years from now, many fewer law school graduates are going to be hired. So take a very long look at that grad school choice. If it's expensive and time consuming, you may want to rethink it because you're just kicking the can down the road. In terms of opportunities that are out there now, I'm going to quote my friend Mark Cuban, who thinks that the best opportunity right now is to take AI tools to small and medium-sized businesses who will be totally behind the curve and say, I am the whippersnapper who went to Johns Hopkins or some other school. I'm going to equip you for the future and march around your community and sign up businesses, because there's going to be someone doing that in just about every community, and it might as well be you.
Simon.
I have an answer for you, Natalie, which is political activism. You could line up with Andrew Yang here, that's pretty obvious, but you could also get Rumman or Chris to run for the highest possible office, because both of them could be on this side of the debate. Both of them, if you look at their work outside of this evening, you will admire and you will appreciate. Both of them understand the dangers that technology pose to society and have argued eloquently that we can put that technology onto a better path, but only through political choices would have not yet been made. So go work with them, Natalie, and change the world.
Thank you. Who's next up on the...
Hello, I'm a student from Johns Hopkins, undergrad.
Can you tell us your first name, please?
Leon.
Hi, Leon.
Leon, yeah. So I know Mr. Hughes raised this point about how judgment and empathy are skills that still remain human. So a 2023 Pew report basically called for more examination of how AI influences human agency, and specifically judgment. However, there's no consensus of how we should protect human agency and judgment, given that we're offloading more decisions to AI. So given that, in what ways can we protect human judgment, which is very essential for most jobs in the AI age, in your opinion?
Okay, again, it's not a debatable question, it's a what do we think question, but again, I think we're all wondering this, so this might be that kind of question and answer session, but Chris.
I think it's really important to push the frontiers of what we can imagine. Like, I really am an AI optimist, and I don't think we can even conceive of the jobs that will be created in the future. Let's imagine AI enables us to speak with animals or understand their own language. Would you need a mediator to help if a pack of gorillas was in conflict with another, or a parent-teacher conference between, this is a fantastical set of ideas, but that kind of career choice that will ultimately involve judgment, empathy, these kind of human values, I think is important, but the skills are difficult for us to imagine. I will say, though, again, the conventional wisdom is that, the law is over. The law is a growing field in the United States. Lawyers are up by 5 to 6% compared to BLS stats. Now, I'm not sure that they necessarily will be in the next 10 years, but the idea that all of this work is over and anything that was traditional is no longer going to be viable, I think is a point there to distract you, not to actually help you think critically about the kinds of fields you should go
Fascinating,
into.
the idea of being able to talk to animals, which is where we're all going to be vegetarians at that point.
Well,
I'm sure.
which will require new jobs for new kinds of food.
If you want to maintain human agency in the face of AI, I've got very simple advice for you. Put down your phone. Put down what Hassan Minhaj calls our rectangles of sadness, because these things have become engines of manipulation and anger and division. And if you put it down, then you'll be exercising agency in a deeply personal way.
Thank you, Leon. Next question.
My name is Joseph Yoon. I am a Hopkins graduate and a current member of the Hopkins Alumni Council that represents all 10 schools of Johns Hopkins. My question is actually going to bring back sort of a timing component that was brought up earlier tonight in regards to when this is going to happen. There's been a lot of talk of what's going to happen and what's going to go away and whatnot. And I'll try and make this debatable based off the division line here, because on this stage 2 months ago, the CEO of Uber spoke about self-driving cars. And when he spoke of time frame, he said, we won't see the overtaking of people driving their own cars for at least 30 to 40 years. So with that backdrop, I'm curious for someone to give some guidance in terms of when this is going to happen, because I know my colleague I came with said, hey, in 36 months, this is all going to be over.
So I'd love to start that.
And I really appreciate that question, because I think that's part of what we're actually fundamentally debating here. So thank you for bringing that in.
I'd love to start there. So there's a difference between Waymo cars being put on the street and people having self-driving cars. And the big answer is actually liability. So when self-driving cars are made and humans like you replace your car with it, guess who's responsible if it gets into an accident? You are, not the company that created the algorithm that automated the driving that hit whatever you hit. So this is actually going to be a big sticking point. We have not figured out the societal issues, the legal issues, and the corporate issues, because Professor Johnson's correct that there are corporate entities that are trying to suck up all the power and money. And also they want none of the responsibility. So when Tesla, quote, self-driving cars that aren't even self-driving get into accidents, Tesla is often not responsible for it. When the Uber self-driving car that was in beta testing mode hit a woman who was crossing the street, the test driver was responsible for it. So the reason you're going to see that gap is not because the cars aren't capable, it's because they want to put the blame and responsibility on you and the liability on you while they're taking your money and taking away your autonomy.
Simon.
You're going to see a loss of hundreds of thousands of white-collar jobs in the next 12 to 24 months. I spoke to a senior executive at a Fortune 500 company. Thousands of layoffs, has not gone public yet. Verizon publicly announced 13,000 layoffs, Amazon 16,000, your former employer Accenture, thousands of layoffs. You're going to see a massive culling of the white-collar workforce over the next 1 to 2 years.
So why hasn't it started yet? Why is unemployment at record low numbers?
It has started. If you
there's no evidence
if you look,
that it
you're
has.
down 1 million jobs in 2025. Sans the healthcare sector, which has its own set of incentives, and the directly attributable to AI layoffs, which is a massive, tiny subset, is now up to 75,000, and the pace is picking up right now.
Yeah,
so
but
Chris,
that's from
come
corporate
back to me
reporting,
in
and
2
all
years,
the
and let's
CEOs
see
want to
which of
say,
us
I'm
is right.
so into AI that I'm going to eliminate jobs because it juices their stock price. The reality is unemployment's at 4.6%, and the thin evidence base that suggests that any jobs have been eliminated by AI, those studies from some of your colleagues at MIT and Stanford and elsewhere, they start in June of 2022, before ChatGPT was even released. So the idea that we're seeing any kind of meaningful labor market disruption so far is just not borne out in the data.
Just check back in 1 to 2 years and
Simon.
see which one of us is right.
Let's let Simon come in.
I just asking a great question, and we can put some numbers on this. There's about 3.5 million people work as full-time delivery drivers in the United States. Part of that, some of that's long-distance drivers, some of them drive in urban areas, and there's another couple of million people who work part-time, through an Uber type arrangement. So let's say we're talking about 5 million jobs. Now, you all, I think, live in Washington, D.C., and I spend a lot of time in Washington, D.C., and you've seen Waymo cars on the streets. Now, those are not self-driving. They have somebody behind the wheel, and they're learning the streets, and they're learning Washington drivers, so try to keep them, pay attention to that. And they're thinking about...
they're screwed.
And now they're thinking about snow and ice, okay? That actually is a tough problem, self-driving cars. But the point is, Waymo's not alone. There's plenty of other competing technologies. It is arriving. The regulators are allowing it. The President of the United States says he wants to go all in on this sort of thing. So Andrew says losing hundreds of thousands of jobs in white-collar work. I think we're going to be losing up to 1 million jobs in driving around the country. Waymo is already 20% market share in San Francisco. Who's ridden in a Waymo anywhere in the country? Was it a good experience, Leah? She liked it. She liked it. That's why they're taking over. People like it, Joseph. I think we're going to be losing 1 million jobs in short order in those urban transportation roles. Will they all go work and find other jobs smoothly, easily, well-paying jobs? Well, that's not been the experience of other people.
Thank you for your question and for the timing part of it. Thank you. Next question.
Hi, my name is Jake. I am a graduate student here at Johns Hopkins SAIS. So Moravec's paradox is the observation that it's comparatively easy to make computers exhibit adult-level intelligence, but extremely challenging to give them the motor and perception skills of a toddler. Do you think that AI could overcome this paradox? And if not, do you think the demand for physical labor will grow as a result?
Rumman, can you take that question on, because it goes to the pace of technology, the capability.
Absolutely, and you're touching on exactly what Fei-Fei and Jan are addressing, that we've reached the current capabilities of the architecture of large language models, generative AI models, and that's what you were talking about, what would be known as a world model. And they themselves have said that this technology is many, many years away. It will come out gradually, and they're both quite responsible stewards of the technology that they would want us to benefit from it. So no, the current architecture of technology would not allow advanced level capabilities of this technology.
Well, just hold on a moment. So driving around Washington, D.C., does that require human intelligence or motor skills or a combination of both? At least my experience of DC drivers is you better be pretty much on your toes, and you need a lot of brain-body coordination in order to survive out there. This is what self-driving cars can do already. So you're right about the paradox. You're right that the harder problems for computers are things that we think are relatively easy, like walking upstairs. Absolutely. But the leaps and bounds of this technology are incredible, and this is what is coming. And we are not saying that we should shut our eyes and hide under the table. We're saying you've got to get out there and think about the alternatives and build better technology and build more pro-worker technology. But denying the arrival of technology that will transform everything about the interaction of intelligence and motor skills, that's a mistake.
Well, but remember,
I do not think you're going to have robot plumbers or HVAC repair people in the foreseeable. About 44% of American jobs are either repetitive cognitive or repetitive manual. 56% are non-repetitive cognitive or manual. Non-repetitive manual jobs are actually going to be among the most secure.
Rumman.
I was going to say, but Waymo, again, did not fall out of the sky yesterday. 25 years and hundreds of billions of dollars of investment. One of the earliest problems with self-driving cars is something known as the Zoolander problem. Something a 16-year-old can learn how to do in a week. This car took hundreds of millions of dollars and 10 years to learn, which is how to make a left turn at a stop sign. That was known as the Zoolander problem.
How long did it take, Chris, for Facebook to change the world?
Not
18
long,
months?
but I've been hearing that self-driving cars are a year away since I first met Andrew in 2016. I mean, it will happen. We all, I think, agree on that.
Have you driven a Waymo? Did you take a Waymo?
It's lovely.
Was it a good experience?
Again,
would you do it again?
Of course, yes. And will those jobs go away? Absolutely. No, the debate is not, is Waymo lovely? It is. We all agree. The debate is whether or not the destruction of those jobs will make work obsolete or create
Waymo, did you feel safer or less?
I have not been in a Waymo before, actually. Sorry.
Shock.
But
you're being applauded for not having been in a Waymo.
There you go. But I will say, let's take this to AGI. Let's take this to the kinds of jobs Andrew's talking about. We would need something approximating artificial general intelligence, which, by the way, the CEOs of these companies have defined as the automation of all tasks of economic value. So to be clear, AGI is not human-level cognition. It is fully automating away economic work. So this is actually the intent of the CEOs. And again, I'm agreeing with Professor Johnson here. I think you should just move over to this side. This side of the table.
If the debate is, are CEOs full of it? Yes, I think we're in agreement. These are immensely powerful people with tens of billions of dollars.
But I will add that this time last year, Dario Mode said that we would have AGI by 2026, right? We have been talking about this advanced cognitive technology is going to blow all of our minds for years and years and years now. And what we see is this technology can't spell the word strawberry. Right? So it is very hard to wrap our heads around this idea of hundreds of millions of jobs taken away when very, very basic tasks cannot be performed. And by the way, we have not even talked about the fundamental problems with technology, which is hallucinations, which is, by the way, a feature, not a bug. That is a standard part of this technology. So do we want legal documents being written by a technology that has an unpredictable chance of hallucinating the outcome? Do we want movie scripts? Do we want anything being done by a technology that is, by the way, again, unpredictable because of the probabilistic output of the technology?
So I think the
everyone, I have to stop you. We're out of time for the question and answer. However, with your collaboration and your agreement, I'll add 5 more minutes to the clock, but I need you to all clap for that. So. There's a student named Hayden that I'm waiting to hear from. Are you here, Hayden? You're a Hopkins student. I'm going to let you jump to the front, and then you've been waiting a while. You'll go next, and then we're going to have to wrap it. So I'm sorry for everybody else who's standing in line. We're just out of time. And can you be really fast with your question?
Yes, okay. I'm asking for the live stream on the Homewood campus. The question is, what industries are going to see an increase in jobs, and how can colleges and universities prepare students to enter the new workforce?
Okay, we've partially covered the prepared part. I think that Chris talked about, you both talked about taking a broader sort of education. But what industries would you say are worth?
I mean, I think the question is the time horizon. So let's just talk about the next 2 years, because I think it's, or 3 years, because I think it's the clearest. I would say nurses, physical therapists, home health aides, wind turbine service technicians, solar installers, family counselors, and therapists. I mean, we could keep going. These are all jobs that perhaps could be automated eventually, even these, creating a new frontier, but they're all areas of growth that both, AI optimists like myself, I think I'm more optimistic than many on this stage about the technology, agree will create jobs. And that's not to say that in the long term, there still won't be more that we can't even yet imagine.
A point of information, while Chris may be right in principle, the renewable energy programs were cancelled. Chris,
doesn't matter.
Year.
There's still the amount of money being spent on renewable energy is still going up into the right.
So yes, perhaps there are some technological possibilities here, but they're not going to be paid for by the federal government. The federal government has made it very clear that it's not going to fund the
well, thankfully, it's the private sector who's funding it. 90% of the funding previously was from the private sector anyway.
With Obamacare cuts and all of the other cuts coming through, Chris, I don't think that the money is going to be there. You're talking about various forms of public subsidy, which we might well support, but the subsidy has already been withdrawn, as these good residents of Washington can agree by applauding.
Simon, let me let Rumman in.
I'm gonna throw one job out there. I think what students always look for is like, tell me the one thing I should do. Study tech law. It is the fastest growing field in tech. Like literally the legal profession within tech is so fascinating, super interesting. The one degree I wish I got was a JD at this point. Did not think I would have wanted to get it before.
What about tax law to help the billionaires escape paying the taxes on their
Simon, I just want to get to one more question. I thought you were going to say debate moderator.
Sorry, John. To the extent that there are needs in the labor market, it's around skilled trades, electricians, that sort of field. Also, I'm friends with numerous law partners who 100% use AI to write briefs. They use 3 models and then they edit and compare.
Hello, I'm Benjamin Bolger, and my question is about can AI make us happier while we're working? There are some professions, like being a professor, where people work decades after they could retire because they enjoy learning and teaching. But there's also occupations that are incredibly exploitative and soul-crushing. Can AI lead us to be more happy in the workplace, and can AI encourage more equality in the workplace as opposed to inequality?
I think it's a little off point about whether jobs are going away, but again, it's an interesting question, so I'm going to allow it and bring it to this side, because I think you've already made the case, I think, Chris, that you see a world where AI relieves pain and suffering.
On balance, I think that the march of technology tends to make the demands of menial labor go down over time. I would certainly prefer much of the jobs that people do today in service industries and office workers to the jobs in textile mills 300 years ago. So I think that's generally true, and it's possible that AI can make us happier. Of course, it's also possible if you use the technology badly or not well, that it could make your work a lot more tedious, full of errors that you then have to go and correct. So I don't think it's written in the stars, but it's certainly possible.
Okay, your side, you don't have to debate that point, but if you want to, go for it.
The best way AI can make us happy is if we heed Dario Amade's advice and tax the AI companies and then distribute the gains quickly and broadly to the American people in the form of a universal basic income.
Thank you. That concludes the question and answer portion of this debate. So now we move on to the last round. In the last round, each debater stands up again and makes a closing statement one more time, trying to persuade you that they are right before you vote. So our first speaker in the closing round with his 90 seconds will be Simon. The floor is yours.
So Chris and Rumman are terrific people, and they've done amazing work in this field, and you should listen to them seriously, and you should go look at their other work, because they've worked really hard to try to pull AI in a better direction, and that's what we should all want to take away from tonight. But the question before us is a very precise one, which is whether you should vote on the side of Andrew and me or on the side of our opponents. If you vote for Andrew and me, what you're saying to the world, and I undertake and Andrew undertakes to take this message to the world, is that what you value more than anything else is more good jobs. AI could deliver that. AI does have possibilities. There could be a better future for us, but it's not the path that we're on. Rumman's work is about the problems of the path we're on. Chris's very powerful eloquence is about the problems of the path we're on. We need more good jobs, and we need to change the way we organize our economy. We need to change the way we tax the AI industry. We need to change the way we think about work. This is not happening. We're in a bad place. It's happening fast. We're going to be overwhelmed unless we change that narrative, change the vision, speak directly to those CEOs, address the fact that technology is not good enough. We must together change and improve our world. If not us, then who? Thank you very much.
Next up, we're going to hear from Chris, who once again is arguing for the last time that AI will not make work obsolete. Chris, the floor is yours.
In 1977, Youngstown Sheet and Tube shut its Campbell Works factory and laid off 5,000 people in a single day. And over the next 5 years, all the other steel mills in the region shut down as well. They laid off 50,000 people. This is a modern example of what Simon was talking about. But those jobs didn't vanish from the American economy. In fact, millions of new jobs were created in healthcare, software engineering, and finance. But the people in Youngstown, they didn't become software engineers. And their kids, they didn't become financial analysts. And a generation later, the political backlash arrived. Smearing honey on the keypads of ATMs, or pretending that AI will make work obsolete, these are ideas that are driven by fantasies, one nostalgic and one futuristic. And they let us avoid the hard practical work of figuring out how to help real people navigate the rapid pace of technological change. And we've heard the other side tonight concede the fundamental point of tonight's debate. Work won't become obsolete. Andrew says himself that there will be plumbers and technicians, so does Simon, but it will change dramatically. So now that we all agree about that, what we got to do is roll up our sleeves and think about what we're going to do. We have to modernize unemployment insurance, create a national service program for jobs for people who want it, and modernize the way that we do vocational training in this country. But let's be honest, this time around, we have to build the bridge before the river rises. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Andrew, you now have the floor once again to argue that AI will make work obsolete.
Well, thank you, Chris. I think all four of us really agree that there's going to be a transition. It's going to be very, very difficult. And the question is, what do we do? The richest companies in the history of mankind have spent hundreds of billions of dollars on a technology that has already completely disrupted coding. Where do you think it's going to go next? If you think it's going to just stop where it is and everything else is going to go on as it has gone on for the last number of years, unfortunately, you are dreaming. I am now 51 years old, and if I don't get dumber in any given month, it's a good month. We're talking about technology that is doubling in speed and power every several weeks in a way that's generally incomprehensible to most of us. This is the most dramatic economic and technological transformation in the history of the world. For the first time, there are machines that can do work that would take us weeks or months in a matter of minutes. It's going to transform our way of life. And what we would need is a government that is forward-thinking and able to manage this transition for tens of millions of Americans. Do we have that today? No, we do not. Instead, we have a crew that is looking backwards and not forwards. This is something that all four of us can agree on. The question is, how do we create a race that we actually want to run and can win, as opposed to being set up to lose in a colossal fashion? And that, I think, is a vision that can unify all of us and hopefully the country. Thank you all.
Thank you, Andrew. And Rumman, you get the last word one more time, your closing statement, arguing that AI will not make work obsolete.
In 2018, I coined a phrase, moral outsourcing, and this was pre-ChatGPT, pre-Gen AI. And what I noticed was this very dangerous language of anthropomorphizing AI in our sentences. Even the premise of today, will AI make work obsolete? All the questions, will AI do this? AI does not do anything. It has no wants, needs, desires. It's the CEOs, as we've all been saying. Now, one thing we should think about is what the decisions are these CEOs are making. So I, for one, don't actually want these biggest companies in the world to be taxed and for me to get a welfare check from Sam Altman as Sam Altman gets richer, because that's actually a very poor construct of how we should be envisioning our labor markets. And actually, on the side that Chris and I are arguing is for dignity of work, right? For us to have good policies that enable us to do the jobs that we want. So what we're not saying is everyone should go be a plumber, a massage therapist, or a yoga teacher. It's that we should have choice, opportunity, and upward mobility, which is something that is woefully lacking. As Professor Johnson had pointed out, the middle class has been cut out, and this is not just due to technology, it's due to corporate greed. What we are talking about is a better world where technology enables us to have a dignified future. So our side, and voting for our side, means that you're voting for a better and sensible understanding of the kind of work we should have in the future.
Thank you. All right, we have heard the arguments, and now we would like to hear from you, our audience here in Washington, D.C. once again. If you go to the QR code that's on the screen, we're going to ask you to vote for a second time. The question is the same, and the options are the same: yes, no, or undecided on the question of will AI make work obsolete. I'll give you a few minutes and wait for you to establish eye contact with me. When you finish voting, there's going to be a button at the bottom that will take you to a second survey that I beseech you to help us with. It's just a few questions where we want to know how you rate this debate overall, what you would like to see different, what you would like to see done in the future. It's just a few questions, and it really, really will help us out. So that comes at the after you have locked in your vote. I'm going to give another 30 seconds for you to complete the vote, and then wait for that other button to come up. It's very quiet in here. Okay, we're going to lock out the vote now. And what I would like to do as we wait for the results of the vote to be tabulated is to ask our four debaters to step up to center stage with me, because I have something I'd like to say to the four of you, which is I told the audience at the beginning that our goal is to make the point that we can disagree in ways that don't have to result in antagonism and acrimony. That what we do here is an extremely good version of debate, unlike so much else that calls itself debate nowadays. That depends on these debaters coming in the spirit in which they came, which was to argue in good faith, actually to listen to each other, to evaluate each other's points, to hear those points, to be fair about it, to be honest about it, not to denigrate one another in any way. That never happened here. And I am so pleased to be able to say that, and to say that on behalf of our partner, the SNF Agora Institute, that what we did here tonight is exactly what we always set out to do. And I want to thank the four of you for doing it the way that you did it. Thank you. Thank you. And the next thing I always do at this point is I ask the debaters to shake hands.
Oh.
But as we wait for the results of the vote to come, I'm just curious about the experience that you had in doing this, and I'm particularly interested since there were places where you were kind of edging into arguing the other side's position, or at least you were conceding it strongly. But I'm curious, did you hear a point from your opponents? I'll start with you, Rumman. A point from your opponents that you kind of didn't expect, and you thought, But that was a damn good point. I have to think about that.
Oh, I mean, I think a lot of Professor Johnson's points about the structure of the economy and how AI
Simon?
makes it. Yes, sorry, I can't. It's really hard. I'm Asian. It's really hard for me. That was made about the inequality being accelerated by AI. Fully agree. Also, didn't expect it to come up in this debate. I'm glad it did.
How about you, Simon?
Well, I mean, I don't want to go on about it, but this interview you did with Ganesh Sitaraman at the Vanderbilt Politics Center, I thought Chris was spot on. I'm going to use it with my students. And Rumman, the whole right to repair applied to AI is totally brilliant. I mean, those are points they made before the debate, and I was trying to use them in my favor. But these guys have got really smart, well-articulated views about what really matters to us, which is can we shape this technology politically, economically, and technologically in a direction that's more pro-human, John. So thank you to them for that, for your work, guys. Thank
Chris?
you, honestly.
The whole debate centered me on what are the public policy things that we can do to ensure that as the AI disruption happens, that the fruits of it are well distributed, both either in labor market opportunities or in other ways. And I think a lot of the research that Simon has done was ringing around in the back of my head the whole time.
Andrew?
Better than the Democratic presidential debate.
That's it's a low bar.
I think the people here, all four of us agreed generally on where we'd like society and the country to go. And so the spirit was better than I've experienced in several other contexts.
I have the results of the vote, and it goes like this. Once again, reminding you that we asked you to vote before you heard the arguments. We asked you to vote again after we heard the arguments. We're looking for what the swing was on people who went from yes to no, no to yes, or to and from undecided. Before the vote, on the question, will AI make work obsolete? 20% said yes, 62.7% said no, 17.3% were undecided. After the vote, 21.81% said yes, 62.7% said no, 15.6% were undecided.
We didn't move them a hair.
By a hair, the yes side was more persuasive. Congratulations to them.
That's amazing. This could not have ended any better. I love this.
Thank you, everybody. You've been a spectacular audience. Thank you for everybody who asked questions. Thank you to Hopkins and the Agora Center. Thank you to everybody who didn't get to ask a question. Hopkins students, if you want to come up on stage and join our debaters, please do. Thank you. Good night, everybody.